can contact us on our website, Lifestoriesworldwide.com. There you will find the salvation prayer link you can click onto. You'll find the Bible app you can download to help you to get to know God more. And you'll find an article on there, how can I get to know God? So go to our website. You'll find lots of information there. Okay, George, I'm going to hand over to you now with some questions for Kelvin.
Thank you so much, Alvin. Alan, I should say that, Alvin. I'm getting Kelvin and Alan mixed up there.
Don't worry, it's live. It's live. It's live.
Welcome, Kelvin, to Life Stories Worldwide. Thank you so much for telling us your story, actually. Very, very condensed version. I mean, we billed you as moving from the military to missionary. And I was just thinking in my head here, okay, you went from paratrooper to a policeman to a priest, okay?
It was worse than paratrooper, George. It was military police.
More military police.
Most unpopular regiment.
So when you were growing up as a kid, did you ever dream you'd be a priest?
No. It was no. Church didn't play any part in our family at all. It was a fairly dysfunctional family, so it was a bit of an interesting upbringing. But that's why I moved out and joined the army. So my parents were gobsmacked, absolutely gobsmacked. This brat of a boy of theirs that suddenly started going to church. Wow, it was no. There was never ever any suggestion of it.
So what were your dreams then when you're growing up, going to school? I mean, the teachers tell you need to be, I don't know, a banker or a carpenter or whatever. Did you have any dreams like that at all to be anything?
I wanted to be a policeman.
All right.
I wanted to be a policeman because my oldest brother was horrible and I wanted to be able to arrest him.
Nice brother.
No, not really. No. But no, it was just an interesting family, and because he was a villain, we had police come to our house quite a lot. And I thought, that's what I want to do.
Catch villains.
Catch villains. But I joined the army first and became a military policeman. And then just when the Metropolitan Police was, I had a friend killed on duty in the army, and when the Metropolitan Police was advertising quite heavily in '75 for people, myself and several other soldiers decided, well, that's what we're going to do. And
how old were you when you actually joined the military?
18.
And was it a shock to your system when you joined? All the shall we say the rules and regulations and the orders you had to obey?
No, loved it.
What was it about that you loved it?
I think it was the order. It was the order, and the camaraderie. Which is what happened. So yeah, and then I joined the police. I was okay in the army. I didn't get any injuries, but then I joined the Metropolitan Police, where I was shot at, stabbed, run over from escaping bank robbers. I was blown up during a terrorist campaign during the '70s in London, and I shouldn't look this good actually, George, because I took on an East End gang. I tell you, this is the kind of guy I used to be, folks. I was big, strong, and I could really look after myself. And I took on more than I could chew when I took on a proper East End gang, and they stamped me. So they broke my face, and I had to have it rebuilt. Wow! So I shouldn't look this good.
So you went to the military, you liked the discipline and everything there, and you went to the police. When you look back on being a policeman now, how difficult was it for you?
I loved it. I absolutely loved it. It wasn't the authority. It was the fact that I felt like I was looking after the community where I was. I mean, the West End was very diverse. Mayfair, very rich. Soho, lots of TV studios. That's where the National Film Institute is in Soho. So we met lots and lots of different people. lots of theatres that we could, and got to know the actors. Met Yul Brynner and several other big stars. They were very polite, very nice. They're ordinary people. That's one of the things I think that came over. They were ordinary people, and they just needed looking after as well. Stood with the Queen once outside of Claridge's. Scared the life out of me, George. Scared the life. That woman, it was 1977, 78. That woman was so aware and astute in perceptions of people, and like keeping an eye on who she needed to meet and things. And I was blown away. I became a royalist then, you know.
Okay. So as a policeman, of course, over the years, the Metropolitan Police haven't had good press, shall we say.
No.
Were there anything that happened in there that you didn't agree with, or, you know, that you were drawn into in the police or anything like that?
Corruption did happen. If I say I wasn't corrupt, you're going to have to believe me, really, because I didn't need to make anything up to arrest anybody. And if that kind of thing happened, there was a big peer group pressure back in the 1970s, 1980s. And then when we got Sir Kenneth Newman, who was the commissioner, he reiterated a lot of the anti-corruption rules and investigations. And I was very pleased to see that come in. Very pleased. But no, I never got involved in it. And although, and people would not come to me to ask them to give them an alibi because they knew they weren't going to get it. It was just, my job meant more to me than their friendship and what we were doing. I'd say I enjoyed looking after the community, which is kind of moved into being a priest, really, isn't it? Looking after the community.
Yeah, I was thinking that. Yeah. So this was before you became Christian, of course. So where did your moral stand come from? Where did you get your morals from then? If you were so strong in them.
I think my morals came in defence from the family that I was brought up in. You know, I can't. You know, I'm nearly 70, and I was brought up in the 50s and 60s by people who were Edwardians who'd been brought up by Victorians. So the idea of children being seen and not heard was a big thing, and not having an opinion and not interrupting your elders and not talking over your parents or not talking back, because the physicality of a smack round the head was a real thing. I mean, nowadays it's totally frowned on, and quite rightly. You know, I don't think. No, we never smacked our children at all. But 50s, 60s, it was, if you didn't get smacked by your parents, you could get smacked by the people in the same street who would then go and tell your parents, who would then give you another smack on top. That was that kind of thing. So the morality of behaving, always trying to do the right thing, I suppose, came from that.
And do you think that in the 70s, that, like, for instance, I mean, when I was a kid, I used to be scared of the police, you know, that, do you think that children were revered you or just took the mickey from you?
In the 70s? No, we still had good standing in the communities. People wanted to see a police officer walk in the streets. People wanted to be able to say the number of, I mean, even working in Soho, the prostitutes, what I soon learnt were that these were people. These women had fallen on hard times, or they'd been coerced by men into prostitution. So I always felt very sympathetic towards them. And when my wife was working on the squad that dealt with prostitutes, she just she just said the same thing. These are women that have got kids that they've got to feed. They only know one thing, and they've got to pay their pimp. You know, so yeah, there was kind of sympathy with people that were alleged criminals, even drug addicts in the West End. You know, they got the addiction takes over, and they just needed help. So, and then we had lots of vagrants living on the streets, and a few of us officers, if it was a really horrible night, would go and we would arrest them so that we could take them to the police station, put them in the cell to keep them warm, and then they would get breakfast in the morning. Doesn't that sound very pious, doesn't it? But it
no, it doesn't actually. It's quite good, yeah. It's quite nice to hear.
Yeah, several of us did. We didn't treat them as they were human beings. And I learned that very early on in my life, you know, that people are human. And as much as I understand where my parents were coming from and how we were brought up, you know, that was kind of, I think, the thing that said, you know, people are people and need to be treated with respect. And even in the army, it just, you know, once you got through basic, where you were lower than the low, and then you could start to see why you were treated that way, and then you behaved.
I see. Now, tell us a little bit about how you met your wife. You said in 3 days you moved in 3 weeks you were engaged, and you were married. It sounds like a whirlwind romance.
George, it wasn't on the cut. It wasn't part of my plan. For those listening, and before, I wasn't a Christian. I wasn't going to church. Wasn't Christian. Didn't believe in God. Living in Soho was a young man's dream. All the office blocks, because we had a police section house, like accommodation, and there were 320 police officers living in this unit in the middle of Soho.
Wow.
So we would be out walking on duty, going into offices, meeting young ladies who wanted to go out with a policeman. And it was a great life, because the theatres, when they were coming to the end of a run, they had tickets that they couldn't sell. So what they did, they sent them to the police station and said, if the lasses would like to just turn up, you know, use these tickets. So these young ladies from offices thought us police officers were made of money, because we had these theatre tickets. We say, well, you know, if you'd like to go on a date, would you like to go to the theatre with the theatre? Goodness me! So that was the kind of man I was. You know, we're going into nightclubs, meeting ladies, and I won't go any further into that. But then I just...
You might incinerate yourself.
No. Well, my wife knows what I was like. And I just met this policewoman, and it was like magic, absolute magic. And seriously, she was on floor 1 of this section house, and I was on the 6th floor. And we just moved in together after 3 days. And 3 weeks later, I didn't ask her to marry me. I told her she was marrying me, which I have to say is the only time she's ever done anything that I've told her to do. And we got married a year. We saved up, got married a year later, and got our own accommodation. And 47 years we've been together. She was really... There's a little story that the children were at school, in a church school, and Jean was at home, and I'd taken the kids to school, and the Romanian Revolution had happened. And I was walking up the street, and someone had said to me, oh, can you photocopy an advert for clothes for children in Romania, in the orphanages? So I said, yeah, I can do that, because these were the days when we didn't have our own printers or computers. And I said, yeah, I'll do that. As I walked up the road, Jesus walked next to me. And that's quite a shock. And he said, you're going to Romania. And glibly, I said to him, well, you better tell Jean that, because she and he went, And he went. And when I got home, I said, Jesus just told me I'm going to Romania. And she just said, yeah, I know.
Okay.
Okay. So I went to Romania and was out there for a few weeks working in the orphanages in the just after, not long after the revolution. So, hey, you know, she's been with me on this journey. And when I got selected for the ordination, she went, fine, absolutely fine. And then to retire and find that our life changes to the point that I'm now a fully paid priest in the Church of England, and I'm moving into East London for 6 years, and then I moved to Epping Forest for another 4 years, and then we spent the last 8 years up here. And she's moved with me and helped run churches and always very good at telling me where I'm wrong. So
I know exactly what you mean. I'm a married man. So I was going to ask you, okay, some say that marriage is a three-ring circus, of course. You've got the engagement ring, the wedding ring, and the suffering. But
yeah.
in your case, what's your secret to a happy marriage for 47 years?
We argue every day. Neither of us are in any way unaware of how the other one feels.
Mm-hmm.
Right? We don't go away and fester.
Mm-hmm.
We ding dong it out there and then, if we have to.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's because we respect each other.
Mm-hmm.
We love each other enough to know that, you know, an argument isn't the end of a relationship. It's
Mm-hmm.
just building it. And our daughters have found men, because we've got 3 daughters. They have found men that they can also debate with, and they know
like
where
that.
they are. They know where they stand. That's part of that. The girls all grew up Christian, and have no, they didn't marry. They didn't marry in people from church. They married people outside, and that, I think, has been interesting because they respect the faith. And one of my son-in-laws did become, you know, just turned to Christ. So it was interesting.
Excellent. I mean, as you say, so what would you say then is very important? I mean, you said you're nearly 70. In a marriage, how important is friendship rather than a physical relationship as well? How important is that to keep the marriage going, if you know what I mean?
Being friends.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, you've got to be. Sadly, you know, sadly, as a Church of England priest, I've done lots of weddings for divorcees, and
Right.
you listen to why they got divorced. Many for being abused.
Mm-hmm.
Many for the breakdown, for infidelity, and then there's just where they've got married and they actually realised they didn't like each other.
Mm-hmm.
And I pulled a phrase together that seemed to help, that marriage is to be enjoyed, not to be endured.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're enduring it, then you need to seek help. And if that doesn't work, then it's your decision what you do next. But, you know, and then so marrying divorcees, a lot of my colleagues aren't very happy that I do that, although it's not against the rules.
Mm-hmm.
But they, you know, talking to them afterwards, and I get cards from them and saying thank you, and it's still going well. So yeah, it seems finding the right person is important, and I think I was blessed. And you know, you look back at this, you look back at this, George, and you think, was God already working on me?
Probably. Now, do you also think, Kelvin, that looking over you and you're in society, you're doing marriages and everything, do you think society has turned on its head in the sense that the men and women today, they want everything, they want the house, the children, and then let's get married? Do you think society has turned on its head in that way?
I think what they do is to make themselves secure, financially, work-wise, because every couple that I've married, whether they've been living together, they've never been married and they've been living together, or they've been married, divorced, and then they're living together, they just want to make sure that it's right, and then they'll make that declaration. And whether they get married in church or whether they get married in a registry office or a place that's appointed for weddings, is neither here nor there. But they have to be secure. And then I have had weddings where all the bride is interested in is what the dress looks like, and
yeah,
the carriages and the day, and I've dealt with a few bridezillas. And they get,
is that worse than being in the police?
Well, I think the police helped actually, George, because then I know how to do crowd control.